This is Epic Book Recaps, a podcast that offers complimentary audio summaries of influential nonfiction books, making learning a smarter experience. Communication in Marriage by Marcus and Ashley Kusi. Shortcut for your marriage. What if you could improve your marriage by learning just one thing? That thing is communication. Although you may have heard older couples saying marriage gets smoother after 20 or 30 years, why wait so long? With the tools and communication techniques you'll find in this summary, you can start building a fulfilling relationship today. When you are able to communicate effectively with your spouse, you will feel secure. Think about it. There's not one area in married life where you don't need communication. The issues of sex, budget, relatives, household chores, and many more require talking and listening. The success of your marriage hinges on communication, so nothing is too trivial to talk about. Also, many challenges you're dealing with in your marriage likely stem from a lack of proper communication. Therefore, the earlier you learn this skill, the faster you'll start enjoying time with your loved one without misunderstandings and quarrels. Are you eager to take your relationship to a new level? Then stay tuned. Ask instead of judging. Sometimes you may feel like your partner doesn't get you. They start advising you when you just need a shoulder to cry on or do not notice they hurt you with their joke. That may be frustrating because you want your loved one to understand you without words. However, every person communicates differently, and expecting them to read your mind isn't productive. Instead, you must study each other's communication styles and articulate your needs more straightforwardly. Minor misunderstandings don't dissolve on their own. They pile up if you don't talk about them immediately. Imagine you come home after a stressful day. You want to talk to your spouse about a toxic colleague and how they make your life at work harder. You just need to vent your problems, but your spouse starts offering solutions, and you might see such a response as a sign of indifference and pragmatism. However, before making any conclusions, consider that your spouse communicates differently. Think about it this way. It might seem like an act of love and care for your partner to give you advice and help you resolve a conflict at work. If that is not what you wanted, just vocalize it. Before you start sharing, say, "Honey, I appreciate your readiness to help, but now I need to let off steam. Could you please hear me out?" An exposition like that will put your spouse in the proper attitude to serve you as a listener, not a savior. As you foster the culture of discussing your emotions and interpretations, you avoid unnecessary friction in your everyday life. Yet if you find yourself at the other end of the situation, you must learn to heed nonverbal cues better. If your spouse doesn't look you in the eye, it might signal that they're offended or hurt. Pay attention to the tone and mood of their voice, as it conveys more information than the message. Pursed lips might indicate that your spouse finds your behavior or words inappropriate. Remember that everyone's personality is nuanced, so show more curiosity about your spouse's communication style instead of irritation. Listen to hear, not respond. Paradoxically, you can be an excellent public speaker, but a lousy listener. In that case, eloquent words won't help you hold a conversation with your loved one, because listening lays the groundwork for successful communication. As humans, we are highly self-absorbed. That's why you can find yourself thinking about your response instead of carefully listening to your partner during a talk. More than selfishness, the inability to listen stems from the belief that you know what your partner has to say. But if you put aside your preconceived notions, you'll discover the unexpected edges of your spouse's mindset and create a more respectful relationship. Let go of the need to be right. As you listen to your partner's opinion, you'll see that there can be more than one truth. So beyond a willingness to talk, you should show the skill of empathic listening by following a few rules. Make sure only one speaks while the other listens. Practice open-mindedness. Don't consider you know your partner's thoughts. Try to see a situation through their eyes. Don't start a conversation while one of you is busy. Say what you want to discuss to ensure your partner's attention. Keep eye contact while talking and heed the voice and body language. Before making conclusions, ask, "Is that what you mean when you say?" Think of your answer only when your partner stops speaking. Concentrate on one issue throughout a conversation. Don't let previous topics distract you. When you are open to another person's opinion, you may realize how many aspects you are oblivious to. Imagine you want to buy a rental property and discuss this investment with your spouse. If you listen to their opinion and don't try to persuade them, they might show you the downsides of this decision that you haven't noticed. Thus, empathic listening enriches your view of the world, helps you honor your spouse as an equal partner, and builds a relationship of understanding and mutual respect. Why is my spouse disappointed? It's upsetting when you try to surprise your spouse and see no genuine excitement in their eyes, or they seem dissatisfied when you try your best to help them around the house. It's not that you don't want to put effort into your relationship, it's that nothing you do seems right. Such an issue might stem from your different expectations and lead to growing apart over time. So it's essential to communicate your expectations regularly. As both individuals change in marriage, their expectations and needs might fluctuate over time. Your early environment formed your view of the world and your interpretation of love, building the anticipations you might not be aware of. For instance, your parents expressed love with presents, while your partner is used to words of appreciation. Thus, every person in a marriage must realize their expectations and discuss them with their partner. Some questions will help you analyze yourself and then guide you through a conversation with your spouse. Roles. Do you prefer your partner to maintain a conventionally masculine or feminine role, or are you open to ambiguity? Finances. Do you need savings to feel secure, or are you okay with having enough money until the end of the month? Family planning. How many kids do you want and how do you plan to raise them? Communication. Do you need texting throughout the day to feel loved and wanted, or is talking after the working day enough for you? Household. What are your house rules? What does a clean house look like for you? How do you expect to share household chores and responsibilities? Sex. How often and how do you expect to make love with your partner? Of course, you can have contrasting views on some matters, but don't see it as a problem. Knowing the differences in your expectations will make you more compassionate and understanding toward your spouse as you build a lifestyle that works for both of you. Fighting to strengthen your marriage. Sometimes you show love by wisely confronting your partner about problematic issues, not by downplaying tensions. Thus, you resolve disagreements instead of letting them fester. Although such conversations are challenging, you need them to ensure the longevity of your marriage. Discussing what you disagree with makes you more honest and helps you get to know each other more deeply. Even being as close as a spouse, you can't change your partner. You can only work on your character. However, confrontation shouldn't imply yelling or name-calling. Your main goals are understanding your spouse's point of view and reinforcing your relationship as you eliminate friction. Firstly, never start a difficult conversation unexpectedly. Before approaching some sensitive subject, prepare your partner by saying, there's something I want to discuss. Tell me when you have time for a conversation. To navigate these conversations, you also need patience. Developing a patient attitude takes time and humility, though some recommendations will help you show practical patience. Take a break if you feel that your emotions might take over. Distract yourself to shift your focus and come back with a more rational approach. Don't lose your temper when your partner doesn't understand your point at first. Use different explanations, remembering that everyone's mind is different. Some issues require more than one discussion. Take time to think, set a deadline, and get back to the topic with fresh perspectives. If you keep fighting over something for a long time, search for the deep root of this friction. For instance, the unwillingness to make peace might stem from a desire to be superior to your spouse. In that case, realize that you are on one team as a couple, and keeping scores in marriage will alienate you from each other, making you defensive. Marriage is not a competition between husband and wife. So, instead of focusing on your spouse's weaknesses, channel your energy to foster a more empathetic and reasonable approach to resolving conflicts. How to talk when feelings fade. In marriage, you practice kindness to your spouse even if you don't feel like it. In other words, when you share a day-to-day life with a loved one, the romantic emotions might subside. And you need something more substantial to continue communicating and building a future together. That's when trust, respect, and love come into play. Although when you're in love, it feels like you can show all these traits to your partner, you might find otherwise when your passions fade. So, it is essential to understand how to build a trustful relationship, treat your spouse respectfully, and demonstrate steadfast love. First of all, trust is something you have to earn. Earn trust by keeping your most minor promises and committing to telling your spouse only the truth Moreover, let your spouse earn your trust. Instead of adhering to defense mechanisms and criticism, give them time to reinforce trust through acts of commitment, devotion, and support. To foster a more respectful relationship between you and your spouse, ask what makes them feel important and honored. You can show respect by never bringing your partner's issues or weaknesses outside your marriage and emphasizing their strengths when talking to friends. Remember that your word choice while communicating can also intensify the feeling of respect you give to your partner. You can bring out a person's best traits by showing respect at all times, even in tough situations. For some, the fading of feelings in a relationship signifies decay. Yet the secret of a successful and long-lasting marriage lies in seeing love as more than a brief, fleeting sensation. Love is an everyday decision to show compassion and care and to never take your spouse for granted. As well as fade, passion can overwhelm both of you with new, unexpected force. So continue to tend to your relationship with quality time, little surprises, kind words, and help. After all, isn't it wonderful that you will stay together with your favorite person despite the changing moods? Did you know? In ancient Egypt, both genders could have several husbands and wives. In marriage, more than in any other area of life, problems lose their power when you talk about them. As hard as it may sometimes be to open up, talk about your feelings, or explain your expectations to your spouse, remember that you'll never regret these conversations. By having honest conversations, you don't let misunderstandings and offenses fester in your relationship. That way, by creating a respectful communication culture, you eliminate obstacles that stand in the way of your fulfilling marriage. Do this. Write down your expectations for marriage. Ask your spouse to do the same and discuss them. Ask your partner what makes them feel respected and loved, and implement these actions in your relationship. Next time you converse with your partner, remove distractions and give them your undivided attention.